You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best paranormal talk only on Paranormal Experience Radio. Broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
"43 minutes past the hour. Welcome back to Ghost Talk Radio. You are listening to Ghost Talk Radio live on WBHM Digital Broadcasting. I'm your host, Shelley Robertson, and joining me tonight is Kristen Boyd. Now, we have been broadcasting live from the old Paulding County Jail here in Paulding, Ohio. We've been discussing haunted and cursed items this evening. And if you missed the first part of the show, you can always listen to our show archives at your leisure on Spreaker, Google Play, and iTunes. And we will post the archive links on our Ghost Talk Radio Facebook page. You can follow us there just by going to Facebook and type in the search feature, Ghost Talk Radio, and we will pop right up. Now, before the break, I was tongue-tied, and we were talking about this haunted book in Ocala, Florida, and it was located at an inn, the Scott's Inn. Now, it was an 1893 copy of Sir Walter Scott's classic poem, The Lady of the Lake. Okay, so that was before break, but I'm going to finish this off because it's a little interesting. This book was the only original item left of the Scott estate, okay? Now, as the crew moved into the attic 2 stories up from Elizabeth's room, they turned on a ceiling fan, and the book came flying off of it and hitting one of the crew members. Nancy, who was a lead investigator for that ghost hunting crew that was in the Scott's Inn at the time, she was hit with the book. Later, when the crew had returned home from their investigation, that was the ghost hunting crew that was there, Nancy was astonished to find that the book was within her luggage. Now, having kept the book, it now seems to find its way around many different places in her home. She's found it behind a wastebasket, inside her china hutch, and even just hanging out on the inside of the refrigerator. What do you think about a book just popping around?
Well, I like books, so I think I'd be okay with that. So next is it's a little lore about Uncle Webb's tools.
Oh, tools.
So Uncle Webb was a Seattle contractor whose son Jimmy decided to follow in a different career path of teaching.
Okay.
Now, Webb had willed his son all of his tools upon his passing, but due to an unsettling between him and his son, Jimmy's cousin Carl had ended up with his tools instead.
Okay.
Well, Carl, soon after inheriting his uncle's tools, began to realize strange things were occurring within his home. Now, at first, when he came home, the radio would come on, and it would be playing his uncle's favorite Beatles music. Well, then the tools themselves would start turning up in odd places. First, it was just a single wrench sitting on his bed. Then later, the contents of the whole toolbox were found spread out in a spiral formation.
Oh, my gosh. That's like, what's the magician's show? The Harry Potter stuff.
Oh, yeah. Well, then it got worse.
Oh, boy.
Carl began having nightmares, and he would dream that his uncle would hand him his tools and would point to the door. And when he'd wake up, the door to his room would be slightly ajar.
Uh-oh.
Well, finally, Carl got a little tired of all this, so he rounded up all of his uncle's tools and took them back to his cousin Jimmy. And it was then that all activity and nightmares finally ceased.
So the father obviously did not want that Carl to have the tools. He wanted them for his son, even though they had a falling out.
That's right.
So that's kind of awesome. But here's one, you always talk about, or people talk about, seeing the lady in white or the ghost with the old-fashioned dress and all of this. So, this happens to be Anna Baker's wedding dress. Now, she was the daughter of the rich and well-known Ellis Baker, who was over, a big iron company. Anna had the misfortune of falling in love with an iron worker within her father's factory, so much so that she went out and had a wedding dress made. And unfortunately, when her father heard the news, he had the worker run out of town and forbid Anne to marry someone of a lower class, if you can believe that. Um, so she was like completely devastated. Anna spent the rest of her days holed up within her bedroom, heartbroken and alone. And when she passed away in 1914, her family's mansion was turned into a Baker Museum, and Anna's dress was put on display. Since then, strange things started happening with this dress. People have reported strange voices, sounds, and movement coming from the vicinity of the dress. But the most common reports is that the dress is seen dancing slowly and tenderly within its sealed display box.
Well, it's kind of sad, actually.
It is, because she was hoping for the wedding.
Devastating.
Yes, yes.
Well, next is about some bunk beds.
Uh-oh.
So Alan and Debbie Tallman brought their two kids a bunk bed from a secondhand store in the 1980s. But little did they know of the events that would unfold around them after bringing this bed into their home.
And that's funny, because don't we all have some sort of used object, and you just never know what you're going to drag home with you.
In fact, I have an antique bed. It's an old iron bed frame.
There you go. Yeah. So has strange happenings been happening?
Nope, I'm good.
Okay.
Well, from the very first night, it was clear to the family that something was wrong with the bed.
Yes.
First, their one son fell very ill, which was abnormal for him. Evidently, he never got sick.
Oh, okay.
But then the radio on the nightstand next to the bed began to turn off and on its own. And then the youngest daughter of the family began claiming to have seen a witch standing over her while she was resting on the bottom bunk.
A witch.
A witch.
Oh.
Well, doors would open and close, lights would turn on and off, and soon the entire family began hearing voices throughout their home.
Wow.
9 months the family endured these events when they finally had enough of it. And they had the bunk beds destroyed, and as soon as they did, all the strange activity and noises and hauntings stopped.
And that is, kind of ironic, because I have got several secondhand and used items in my house. Like when we bought our house, it was really old, so I wanted to fill it with antiques.
Right.
So all my furniture is like 100+ years old.
That's actually cool.
Yeah, except for I think a new item is our bed. Our everything else is like really old, and we traveled all over to get these pieces, right? Strange things has happened, especially with our we have a grand piano.
Oh.
If you leave the door open from the keys, there's a door that covers the keys. Every now and again the keys will get played, and it's loud and startling at times, so I keep the door shut on it. Yeah, that's crazy, right?
That's pretty neat.
Well, I tell you what, we've been talking about some fascinating haunted and cursed items tonight, and we've just barely scratched the surface, because there's like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of things. And I gotta tell you, we gotta leave everybody with one more haunted item, and it's probably, especially lately, is the most haunted item of all.
Right.
The most famous. Why don't you tell us about that one, Kristen?
Well, if you've watched any of the Conjuring movies, you've probably seen the creepy doll named Annabelle.
Absolutely.
Well, she's actually based on a real, but a little less creepy-looking doll called Annabelle, which is actually on display at Ed and Lorraine Warren's Occult Museum in Monroe, Connecticut.
But the funny thing of it is, the movie gets a little crazy.
It does.
Because Annabelle actually really looks like a Raggedy Ann doll.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
not quite the little, what is it, glass figured looking doll that they have in the movies.
Right.
Well, the story of Annabelle's creepiness began back in 1970 after a woman bought her for her daughter.
Yeah.
Now, people soon started accusing the doll of random attacks and even attempting to strangle a family friend. Now, I'm not going to lie, seeing a doll try to strangle someone might make me laugh a little bit. No matter
And it'd be
how
like,
bad.
we might just go pick it off them and like,
Right.
come here,
As
you.
terrible as that may sound.
Come here, you.
Well, Ed and Lorraine Warren, they were investigating the criminal activities of the doll, and they actually concluded that she was possessed by an evil spirit.
Okay.
So they decided to take Annabelle to the museum, but their car's brakes and steering, they mysteriously refused to work until they sprinkled holy water on the back seat where Annabelle was sitting.
Oh.
So Ed kept the doll inside a glass box fortified with prayers. That probably didn't stop Annabelle from committing more problems, though. A boy and his girlfriend once had an accident on their way home after Ed sent them out of the museum for mocking Annabelle and banging on her box.
Now I saw the some pictures of it. I would like to go see it in person.
I would too.
But it says a warning, I do believe, on the glass case. Do not open, blah blah blah.
Yep.
You know.
And it's just kind of rude for someone to go up and start banging on an item. It's not even theirs.
I think it's rude, period, some of the ways that people are disrespectful. And
yes.
Sometimes, I mean, maybe they deserve being pushed around a little. I'm not going to say killed. Nobody deserves to die.
For sure.
They don't deserve to die, but maybe, push them a little or trip them a little, straighten up,
Knock them back just a little
Now,
bit.
I'm going to tell you what. I want to take a moment here to talk a little bit about what we have going on here at the jail for the month of July. We have a lot of exciting things, and we have been working so hard on a bunch of projects here for the month of July, actually. July 14th, I want to let everyone know, it's a Saturday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., we will be celebrating John Paulding Days here in Paulding, Ohio. And with the help of Kim Sutton of the Paulding Historical Society, we will be giving historical tours of the building. The tickets are just $5, with the proceeds going to help the restoration efforts of the jail. So anyone out there, if you're listening, stop by Saturday the 14th and see us.